Okay, guys, I think we have to start now. I think all of you answered the question correct, which is true. Combinatorial testing, it's generate the interaction or generate the test cases based on the interaction between the inputs. So example of the combinatorial testing, which is the pairwise testing. Also, it's another one, which is also T or T-way testing. Okay, guys, let's start. Okay. So guys, just last week, what we talked about what? Dynamic testing. Also, we see the first part of the dynamic testing, which is black box testing. So guys, can just tell me any example of black box testing? Black box testing. The methods or the techniques that use in black box testing. Okay, let me see. Yes, just post it in chat. Example of black box testing techniques. Today we have white box. Any example? No, it's not related to the code. Actually, when we talk about black box, that means we test the functional. So if you remember last week, we talked about combinatorial testing. One example. Okay. So this is all. It's an example of black box testing. This all example of black box testing. So today we'll talk about the black box, okay, the white box testing. So we will talk about, so let's go to the big picture, which is all the techniques. So then it will know what's mean the black box or the white box testing. So previous we talk about the black box testing. So in black box testing, actually, we test or we check the functional of the function of the software or the specification or the requirement of the software. So here we don't need to execute. No, we need to execute the code, but we don't need to know what's the code, what is the code, and how it's the structure of the code. So we have a black box, okay, black box. So we don't know anything what's inside that's box. So this is why it's black box, means that we just check we have the input and then we check the output. So this is the black box testing. In white box testing, maybe now you know the idea what the white box testing. The white box testing, which is also it's called is the structure. So we should know the code, and then we generate the test cases based on that code. Okay, guys, so if you see here now, in these methods, the two methods, actually, not only this, the black box testing and white box testing, we try to generate the best test cases. In the two cases or in the two methods, in the two categories, we try to generate the test cases that defect the fault as much as possible. So here, previously, we don't know anything about the code, so we just try to generate the test cases, the input here, and then we compare our input with output. So here we use different methods that can also help us to generate the test cases. So here we'll do the same things, the same issue, that we will generate the test cases. But here we have the code. We can see the code, and then we generate the test cases based on that code. Okay, that's why here we have something we call it code coverage. So in these methods, we try to generate the test cases that cover all the codes. That's why we have here statement coverage, we have branch coverage, we have path coverage, we have multi-condition coverage. We have different type. That mean the purpose of black box testing to cover everything in the code. Means that we have the test case. We have the test case. For example, we have this case. I mean, the input or the application accept input. For example, A. And inside this is many code. We want code, this one, the test case, which is we will select the test case. For example, we select, as we say, we have, for example, A should be from 0 to 10. Okay. So we select the test cases, but we want the test cases. We don't want, for example, 0, because maybe it will not select or it will not cover all these code. It will not cover all these line. So we try to select the best test cases, similar to the previous methods, but here we not based on the code, but based on the requirement. Based on the requirement. Here, based on the code, we try to generate or select the test cases that cover the most, or we can say cover all the code. So here we have different type of coverage, different type of coverage. So our topics today only we will discuss this coverage, these methods. I hope it's clear, guys. Just white box testing. We generate the test cases, so we still try to find or generate the best test cases. So previously we generated based on the specification, based on the input and the output. Now we generated based on the code itself, based on the code itself. So previously we just know that, okay, we have the input from 0 to 10, and then we try to generate one invalid, one is valid, so something like this. But now we have the code itself. So this is also will help us now to select the best test cases. So here also more about the test cases. As we see here, we have, it's called also testing to the code. So we have the code, so we need to test the code. Also, as I told you, it's also structure-based testing, because we try to understand the code and then generate or select the test cases that cover most or all this code. So we have to analyze the code. That's why we have another step here. I will show you. We have to analyze the code. So here also we have to measure our coverage. So if the code, I mean, if our test cases cover all that's code, so we can say, okay, we cover, for example, 100% of the code, we cover only 30%, so like this. So our aim is to cover the 100%, but it's not possible every time based on the code itself. So how to measure the coverage? We have here based on the methods. If we talk about, for example, the statement, because we have statement coverage as I show you previously in the figure. So we have the statement coverage, we have path coverage, we have branch coverage. So we have different type of coverage. So here, for example, if we are talking about the coverage, statement coverage, so we say the number of coverage item. So the number of statement that it's exercised, that means it's covered by these test cases, divided by the number of the total statement. Okay, so let's see explain this. So now, for example, if you are talking about the statement, so that means the number of coverage statement exercised, total of, and divided by the total number of statements. So we have here, for example, we have a code, and this code it's 10 lines, code of 10 lines. So from 0 or from 1 to 10 lines. So we have one test cases, and the test cases is cover the first line, second line, third line. So it's cover five statements, and another 5 statements not covered by these test cases. So how to measure the coverage? So it's just 5 multiply 10, it will be 0.5 multiply 100, so it will be 50%. So if we cover half of the lines, that means we cover 50%. So it's easy. The same thing, it goes to branch coverage. If we talk about the branch, for example, or path or branch, or another. We have branch coverage, we have decision coverage, we have statement coverage. Okay, so the same formula it can apply for any other, for all. Okay, the coverage also can be done in any level. Okay, the coverage is only helpful for code that is written. Of course, you have to the code. If the specification function has not been implemented, you cannot. Okay. So, and it's sometimes it's used some method to do that coverage, to calculate the coverage. So here in general, we have two methods, two step to apply or perform the white box testing. So the first one is you should understand. That's why we are talking now about the structure. So you should understand the code. You should understand the code. And this is the important step. And then based on that code, as a second step, it's you have to generate the test cases. You understand the code because these methods, which is the white box testing methods, it's all based on the structure of the code, based on the code itself. Okay, so you have to understand the code, and then based on that, based on your understanding, you have to select the test cases that cover the maximum number of statement, for example, or branch or path. So guys, this is the two step. I think it's easy. So go to the next. So now we go to the methods itself. So we have here the statement, branch, and path. So this is the important things. So we will go through through these one by one. So first, let's say the statement. Okay, here it's summary of all of them. So, and then we'll go one by one. So what's mean by statement? As I explained, statement is the structure. The structure or each line of the code. Each line of the code, this is we call it statement. I think it's, you know that. So here, if for example, if we have this flow after you understand your application or your software or your program, and then you will draw, for example, the flow chart. You draw it. For example, you can even without it, but it's okay. Suppose we draw it. So now, for example, each box can be considered as a statement. So if you have statement, if you have test cases, and then that test cases cover or that test cases execute each box, that's mean you the coverage is 100%. This is for statement. Statement, it's clear. It's the line, how many line you have in your code. So this is the statement. So let's go to the next, which is branch coverage. What's mean branch coverage? Branch coverage, actually, it's based on the conditions, based on the while. So if any conditions in your application, so this is that means there is a branch. So for example, for the second flow chart, so how many branch we have here? As I said, branch, it's if statement, if we have loop statement, because actually the loops, there is if statement inside the loop. Also, if we have the switch case, this is also, it's the branch also. It's so here, how many branch we have? If you see here, guys, how many? Any help? How many branch do we have here? If you see, it's only one branch, means this is go 1 and 2. Okay, this is one branch. So or let's say it's two because it's one. I mean, this is, we have, for example, branch yes and false, or yes and no, yes and no. So this is the branch. So the third one, which is the path. So what's mean the path? The path, actually, it's the execution path from the beginning to the end. So we have in this, for example, let's say how many path we have here. So for example, I have the first path, it goes this to the end. This is the first path. So the second path, what? It can come from here and then back to this box and then back to the end. So here we have path, two paths. Okay, so actually with the loop is different, but it's okay. Let's say this is two paths. We can consider each loop is only one path, even if the loop here, because it look like loop, that means we have many times, can goes unlimited. Okay, I don't know, you talk about 6, what's the statement or what? If the branch, you have only 2 branch, if we say this is the statement, because as we say branch, if there is any if or loop or switch or cases.